what I can do is I can show people that you can change one lens. And if you can change one lens and change the way the whole world looks to you, that empowers you to realize you can change the next lens. And you can keep shifting lenses until you find that clarity on your own. It's out there, and it's not what you were born with. It's not what you were conditioned with. It's not how you see the world now. And there's people out there who inherently already suspect it, but they've been looking for someone to validate it and someone to demonstrate a path of how they seek the truth, how they find that clarity. And I don't have all the answers, but I have a whole hell of a lot of skills and tools that CIA gave me to find that. And that's what I'm giving out. That's what I'm trying to do with my personal mission.
This is a vast, loaded question. What are the processes or key secret ingredients that's part of this indoctrination process? Because a close friend of mine, Dan Merring, he has a top history podcast. His cousin was an IRA terrorist back in the 80s. But he was baffled when he saw the news because he was this very meek, very docile person. But I think they lost contact for about a few years. And the next thing he heard is he blew himself up in Ireland as part of IRA. And him and I, we talked a lot about like, how do you extremify someone's internal operation belief by changing their part of personalities? And it's such a traumatic way. And I sense some of the same process I'm sure CIA did. How did they do it?
So there's an actual process that extremists specifically use that they have perfected over years. So you got to keep in mind that there's the intelligence infrastructure for cultivating an asset, which has been professionalized and studied because CIA developed out of OSS, which was the Army's version of human intelligence collection. OSS developed from MI6, and they created that service long before OSS existed, long before CIA existed. So you have this history of proven performance over time and proven professional practices versus what extremists do, which is, through the school of hard knocks. So extremists actually use something they call a ladder. And what that ladder does is it turns people into like fundamentalists. And it all starts with being able to validate an external oppressor. Right. And that's something that's so important in the world of extremism. And it's also very important in the world of human asset development, human intelligence. We all feel like there is something external holding us back. We all feel like it, whether it's race, color, creed, family income, beliefs, a bad boss, whatever it might be. We all believe that there's some sort of external thing that's holding us back. We don't ever want to face the uncomfortable truth that it's maybe all internal, right? When you go down a path of personal growth and self-actualization, you start to come to accept, I'm doing it to myself, right? I'm holding on to these things, or I'm responsible. It's called an internal locus of control. It's my fault. I'm doing it to myself. I can work my way through it. We're programmed and conditioned, like in all cultures, all societies, by virtue of it being a society, even tribal societies in Africa, to have an external locus of control. So you actually have to learn the internal locus. You're born and conditioned with an external locus. What extremism does is it first validates you are being held back. And then once you're validated believing that, which is something that's feeding your echo chamber already, once they validate that, then the next thing they get to do is contextualize what the villain is. And then when they can contextualize what the villain is, then you become part of a community that's fighting the same villain. That's how you take somebody who's like you've heard these stories about these beautiful children and these kind people who turn into atrocious criminals. How does that happen? It happens because every beautiful child still feels a locus of external control. And they struggle with it and they deal with it and it's a challenge to them, and they're never shown how to accept that external factor is actually internally derived. So it's a sad, sad thing, but it becomes the foundation for how extremists create radicals through this radicalization process. It's also the process by which foreign intelligence officers or field intelligence officers learn to collect secrets from highly placed military and government assets around the world, because they've especially, think about any senior government or senior military person. Guess what they've never given up? an external locus of control. They work for somebody else. They always have a boss. They always are seeking someone's approval. They're always seeking someone's authority. Why are they trustworthy to have a secret at all? Because something externally gave them permission to have top secret security clearance. How crazy is that, man?
That's wild.
Somebody else is going to be trusted with a secret that you're not trusted with. Why? Because some external entity said that they're trustworthy and didn't say that you were. That has nothing to do with your ability to keep a secret. But that's how the world is. That's how we're conditioned by a society that has to maintain maximum efficiency for a diverse crowd.
Wow, my mind's been blown this whole time. I love when you brought up tribalism, because if you think about what tribalism is, by definition, it requires otherism. Without enemy, there's no tribal. And likewise, you're alluding to the undercurrent of defining common enemy.